to when I go 90 degrees up. See if her arms like so. If I don't like that, I'm just gonna take a bolster, thank you, and I'm just gonna tilt that against my leg to support the hand. So it's not flopping. You just don't want those floppy limbs work like as you're working, because then that's gonna pull tension into the area. As I'm working this, once again, if I'm going to change up her arm position, if she can't do 90 degrees up, or there's an area that it's frozen, you're not gonna do it. It doesn't matter, you're gonna skip that move and you're gonna spend a longer time in these positions and then in like fetal position and prone, because in a couple treatments, you should have removed so much scar tissue around like the pretty much head of the humerus and the acromion bone that they're going to be able to do that in the future. So, starting position, making sure my thigh is tucked right under the back side of that scapula bone, pushing the front of the shoulder socket. We are going to begin on the medial side of the clavicle, so the inside. If your chest is still sore from when we did ribs, be mindful of that. But I'm starting right off the clavicle and I'm pulling up into that pectoral tissue. Yeah. Or down, sorry, yes, down into that pectoral tissue and breast tissue. If I was working this, I'm starting technically face to face right now. But if you're gonna be starting on her, like if she was like, oh no, it's just my left shoulder, that's bad. I'm gonna be on the other side and I need my right arm dominant closest to her body. I don't wanna see you coming across. So you're gonna be face to feet. But starting face to feet with the shoulder is okay, because I'm still gonna be tucked in right here and all I have to do is like look down and they're right beside me anyway. So it's face to face and face to feet, but it's not like it's unprofessional to start face to feet because you're so close to their face anyways. They can see you. So we are going to begin on the medial side of that clavicle, and I'm going to be pulling off the ledge of the clavicle and everything down just about 2 to 3 inches into the top of the breast or pectoral tissue. Then I'm carving my way to the side of that deltoid, and I'm going to be working over top. I don't really care for this stuff up here. That's trapezius muscle. That's what we do in the upper back. But now I'm going to be carving over top of the acromion bone and through that deltoid. And when it's a muscle belly again. So when we do muscle bellies, it's just going to be middle, medial, and lateral. I'm going to work my way to about 3/4 below, stopping about 2 to 3 inches before the elbow, because we're going to be doing the elbows afterwards anyway, so just kind of leave it alone. After I've done that, I'm lifting her arm up. I'm going to put it straight out. And I'm going to do the exact same thing, but now I'm going to be coming more over top of the bicep. And if I push that bicep just slightly off and I push in right now, this is a bone. That is her humerus. And so this is called the bicipital groove. So I would start once again on that medial side of the clavicle, pulling down into the top of the pec or breast, working over the side of that deltoid, and then coming off that bicep along the bicipital groove. Tons of like nerves, tendons, and ligaments that are kind of like inserting at it around it. So be mindful, like when I'm working like so, I'm pulling a little bit towards me and I'm pulling up, because it's really weird for me to pull down right now. So I will do that when she gets into prone position. So I'm pulling everything towards me and up into that deltoid as I work my way along. I'm gonna come to about 3/4 of the way below. Once I feel like I was thorough with that, I'm gonna transfer the arm one more time, and so I just did 90 degrees down, or 90 degrees up, and I just changed the tissue of that bicep. And so now I'm more on the medial side. Be mindful, this medial side, that's where all the tendons and ligaments are bare, so it's really sensitive. When you're playing in it and you're working your non-surgical work, you can feel a lot of like, people are gonna be like, my fingers feel numb, it feels like there's electricity in there. It's gonna go away, it's all good. You're just kind of hitting some specific nerves that are pulling down into the hand. When I'm working in this medial side though, just make sure you're not doing face to side too much, because if I come across this, it's literally like you're playing guitar strings. So try to strip it up. And you are going to start on that medial side of the clavicle, pulling off into the top of the breast or pectoral tissue, carving over top of the shoulder socket to about 3/4 of the way down. Once I feel like I was thorough with that, I'm going to get her on her side in fetal position, and then we're going to do the side of the arm and underneath in fetal position before we go to prone. Perfect, right in front of me.
So if someone has frozen shoulder and they have limited range of motion, you just work with what you have and you don't change anything, you don't focus on anything.
There's nothing specific other than the socket.
Yeah,
You're going to hang around the socket more, because I know that like if we look, because like right back here on those ligaments of the joints right here, there's the shoulder. So all around that kind of capsule where the head of the humerus is coming into the socket right there, that's going to be where I'm wanting to kind of play all my angles. There's lots of ligaments because remember, ligaments attach bone to bone, tendons attach muscle to bone. So there's going to be a lot of ligaments directly in this socket attaching that humerus kind of to the actual like acromion bone area, clavicle area, that I'm going to want to play all my angles hanging out like each position to keep everything perfectly even. It's going to be 20 minutes in supine, 20 minutes in fetal, 20 minutes in prone. When I'm doing it in supine, it's about 6.5 minutes per direction of the arm, which is a good amount of time to run through it, but like maybe 2 of that minutes on each direction is just focused around the shoulder socket.
So my understanding of a frozen shoulder is that, you know, there's a lot of pain whatever you do guarding, right? The trauma to the tissue, the muscle, and everything just tightens, and then it's freezes there. So then the pain's gone, and you want to go back, and it doesn't let you. So so it sounds like, according to the picture and what you're saying, it's all of these muscles in here that have contracted.
Correct, and it also sometimes though can be coming from like the neck and trapezius area.
Okay.
So it really does depend. We got to ask our clients where they feel their pain go to from and stem from, because it's like, oh, my shoulder's my issue, but my neck is always tight. So I know that origin might be like cervical 7 and trapezius muscle, and then the insertions to the shoulder.
From here to here, and then you'd work in here.
Correct. Or what if? Yeah, it would be more so the upper back section.
That it's back here.
Correct. And what if they were saying, oh, my shoulder's really irritated, but it comes down into my elbow, and I feel like I have really bad origin, insertion. So we just have to always ask, where's your pain like kind of like radiating from? And then where do you feel like the origin of the pain, and is there an area that it's kind of stemming to? So after, I'm going to demo this in supine position, and then I'm going to explain it in fetal. See, that's what it looks like when it's cold. Okay, so I'm going to begin with a nice airplane landing effleurage massage. Yeah, it's still a little oily, but
It's Minnesota warm.
Starting with that nice effleurage massage. Yeah, so when people get like that frozen shoulder, like adhesive capsulitis, that's like, this thing is like, there's other things that can like, will make people think that they have like almost like a frozen shoulder, like, because you have bursa sacs in each of these. So if like you get a bit of bursitis and that bursa sac inflames, it's going to feel like you have a frozen shoulder because it's very limited. What's in it is already swollen. It's not going to want to move properly. To help drain. Yeah, there's going to, but like even just going in and like, if I had something like that, like a Theragun, taking a Theragun, like just like these little hand massagers and getting in there and stimulating as much flow to relax the surrounding muscles, relax some of the ligaments in the area, and get the flow coming in. It's all about circulation. How do you melt ice? You raise the temperature. So what we're doing is we're opening up the tissue, we're raising the temperature, allowing healthy blood and lymph flow to come in to restructure those muscles, ligaments, and tendons.
So putting ice on inflamed area is kind of wrong?
It's only okay if you sprain your ankle right now.
Okay.
But if you're like, oh, my ankle's sore, it feels inflamed, I would not recommend ice. I would recommend vascular flushing, so putting it under like a tap and going extremely hot, and then as cold as we can tolerate as well. And we just go back and forth, and you want to do 1 minute on, 1 minute off. And you want to bounce back and forth from that at least 4 times, because it's causing a lot of circulation to flow to the area, and then it's causing a lot of contractions, so it's stimulating that area to flush.
Cool.
So I am going to begin at the medial border of that clavicle. Coming right off the ledge. Little chunk right here.
That's the clavicle?
So below clavicle.
I'm right off the clavicle,
Okay.
because this is the collarbone right here. Pulling off in the top of the breast. And if I wanted to get a little bit more of an angle, you could pivot a bit. Like that's just me pivoting, just like slightly tilting my body a little bit more so I can pull up into it. I'm isolating with my guide hand because it's a circular area. So it's easy for that elbow to slip off, and we never want to do circles. Yeah. Staying in my breath, nice and relaxed. Coming up over that acromion bone, pulling into the top of the humerus. Coming over top of the deltoid. And I'm pulling towards me and up. And you can see I'm still allowing my body to lightly pulsate to do the work for me. Staying in that breath, shoulders nice, relaxed and down. As I just work my way through the middle, medial, and lateral sides to about 3/4 of the way down. Once I have done that really thoroughly, we're going to change her arm position up to straight out. All right, starting at that medial border of the clavicle every time. Tucking right in. And I should have said this, but these are our lung, like meridians for our lungs, and we call them the smoker's spot. And so this can be pretty sensitive for some people.
If you were smoking and then you quit, how long would that congestion take to go away?
To really clean out the lungs can take up to like 1.5 years, 2 years. But like there's things that you can do. What if you're like constantly clapping? What if you're doing like a lot of nebulizing? What if you're doing like essential oils on the lung area? What if you're running a lot and getting them to kind of like start to function more and cleaning out? You know what I mean? There's so many things that you can do that are gonna be little triggers to like assist that organ to function better.
And what type of essential oil would you?
Lung restore.
Never seen that.
Lung. Hmm?
So I think it's on sale because he's clearing it up already.
Well, we still are gonna carry it, but from here. So I'm grinding up into that acromion bone. And now remember, I'm kind of wanting to push that bicep off a little bit and come along the humerus bone. Call that the bicipital groove.
So my bicipital tendon used to pop out of that.
Yep. You might want to focus though more like that might be when we do elbow. We're coming down and coming almost into the cubital fossa area. So I'm stopping about 2 inches before her elbow, and I'm going to scale my way back up that bone. Little bits of windshield wiper. You can see my hands still moving like from one section to another. I always play as many angles as I possibly can. Getting back to the side of that shoulder socket, so this is where I really play my angles. Wonderful. So now that I've done that, I'm just going to rotate it once more to 90 degrees out, change the structure of that tissue. Shoulder socket structure has changed as well. So I'm going to run through it once more, being mindful that the medial side is a little bit more sensitive. So watch your client. It's more crunchy now because I've already ran through it a little bit and I've opened it up a bit. So, and that's the thing, some clients, you're gonna have them come in at the beginning, and then like 3 treatments in, 4 treatments in, they're like, is it worse? I hear way more now. You're like, that's technically better. We took the continent, we turned it into 1,000 islands. So now we're just focusing on those 1,000 islands, but it's like, it sounds like it's worse. So other people, like, you'll loosen off their hips and they're like, wow, my hips are looser. And then they'll start moving around. They're like, oh, I'm feeling more like grinding and popping and crunching. I'm like, that is good, because we have opened some of that tissue up that's been like this for so long. So now there's like little pieces in the surrounding areas. Mess around with your flexion and extension, not while you're working, but like just try a little bit more extension or flexion. No, I'm jumping too much. Try a little bit more extension. I'm coming through a little bit more. So you got to mess with it a little bit to see what is necessary for that tissue.
Would you suggest any exercises after this, or
Not directly after, but like I'm gonna do some like strengthening and then also some like mobility exercises to stretch it out. But like over the next, like today, don't do anything. Let it start to kind of like get into its healing properties. Tomorrow, I want to see how they're like saying, oh, it's like super tender, super, like, give it another day. Just apply essential oils, DMSO. Over the next following days, I'm gonna get them to start clapping and then doing specific stretches like the wall angel and stuff like that.
swimming would be ideal?
Swimming's fantastic. Swimming is fantastic because it's the easiest exercise on the body, but it's the most stimulating to every muscle. So after I strip that medial side, work to about 3/4 of the way down. You can play your windshield wiper, but remember, you don't want to go too much face to side because it'll be like jumping over strings. And that is good for this position. So I finish off with a little left thoracic massage. You don't need to apply essential oils just yet. And then we are going to get her into fetal position. So she's going to lie on this side.
Is it a 90-minute?
60, 20, 20, 20. So I'm going to look right here. It's very minimal, so I'm like even okay with it, but like I'm going to do it anyways, just so you guys can see. But if you see like a decent gapping in here, and so like right near her elbow there is a decent gap, I'm just going to take the towel that was on my lap, fold it up, and place it on her side first. So just always look at the client to see if their arm is flush on their body. Just going to lie that. I'm going to fold it once more, actually. That's great. So this is nice and flush. So now we have two positions while they're in fetal position for the arm. This one's really, really easy because all this tissue is starting pretty much from the top of the humerus area and to 3/4 of the way down. And it's a muscle belly once again. So I want middle, medial, lateral. Playing my angles to about 3/4 of the way, windshield wiper and more plowing. I'm going to do that from face to face. I'm going to flip over to this side and do it from face to feet. And I'll be pulling everything back up with my windshield wiper. After I've done that, normally, because some clients come in first thing in the morning and they're getting their shoulder done, they might be heading to work, so I'll just take the towel, I'll apply it to the head so we don't get coconut oil on their hair. She's going to bring her arm up and rest it on her head. If your client can't do that and you're like, oh, they can't get their arm above their head, this arm is coming out to the side. It's going to be as much as you possibly can, but we're doing anything we can to start to open up those bands and strands. So maybe next time they'll be able to do that. But for now, they can't get that arm above their head, so just shoot it out to the side and you'll still be able to get in there a bit. So on the top, when it was lying flush, we did middle, medial, lateral through the muscle belly. Afterwards, when the arm comes up, I'm starting from that inferior tip of the scapula right here. So just the bottom of the scapula, you can feel it. It's like a little point. And I'm going to do middle, medial, lateral. But as I work my way up, my focus point is the back side of the shoulder socket right here where it's inserting at, super sensitive. And then we are going to come just to 2 inches above. I don't want you putting a lot of pressure on their head while you're working, so we're not coming 3/4 of the way down. We're gonna get the back side of the arm in a little bit. So I'm gonna do middle, medial, lateral, inferior tip of the scapula, coming through, focusing on the back side of that shoulder socket majority of my time, and I'm finishing just 2 inches above on the like side of the rear delt. I'm going to do that from face to face, playing my windshield wiper, flip myself over, and I'm going to do it again face to feet. So now that I've explained that, I am going to demo it before we get her into prone position. The This comes in, that lies nice and flush. A little bit of coconut oil. Knead out that muscle, warmed it up. She's good to go. Just like a minute or two at Fleurage Massage. Starting, sometimes I'll see a lot of people begin up here. That's not right because you're pushing down into an area that's kind of retracting like so. So that's upper back. We are starting just right off that acromion bone, top of the deltoid, head of the humerus. Middle, medial, lateral. Pivoting myself a little bit. So common sense as practitioners, we know, and especially if we study a little bit of anatomy, stuff is inserting from here to here. It's not coming out to the side. So I want face to face, pivoting a bit face to side, but too much face to side, you're just gonna kind of jump over. So just try really 45 degrees.